C8 is a product that the DuPont Corporation used to manufacture Teflon. It's in all of your Teflon pans, as a matter of fact. In the process of manufacturing Teflon, DuPont pumped millions of pounds of C8, this toxin, this deadly toxin, directly into the Ohio River, and that caused cancer all up and down the river. 70,000 residents along the river drank this C8 toxin for decades. This went on for such a long time, but now a new documentary has finally told the story that media was too afraid to tell for 50 years. The reason, Peter, they didn't tell the story is because DuPont spends so much money advertising with NBC, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, and so does 3M, which were the two major manufacturers. So as we see so often with corporate media, you know, it's all about dollars. We don't get news anymore.
It's all filtered based on who's going to cut a check to pay for the advertising.
Exactly. What we're seeing with the opioid industry right now, they're starting to buy all kinds of advertisement so they can get more favorable stories on ABC, MSNBC, you know, all the networks.
Like BP did after the oil spill. Let's buy up full page ads and run them, and then they get to kind of somewhat drive the content of what the ultimate consumer is seeing. It's just driving the message home, and Main Street America is letting them do it at the end of the day.
Well, this movie is the first time. Now, I was just at Sundance a couple of weeks, the film festival. And at the film festival, this thing premiered. Peter, the place was jam-packed. They had hundreds of people waiting, just on waiting line to try to get in. The film got a standing ovation.
On the C8
on the C8
in the Ohio River.
They call it The Devil We Know is the name of it. I'd recommend anybody go take a look at this trailer. It's called The Devil We Know. It's done by very, very talented group, same people who did Fed Up, which is one of the most downloaded movies in U.S. history.
A pretty heck of a quality piece.
So anyway, as I watched this, I think the thing that occurred to me as I watched The Devil We Know was that what if corporate media had started telling these stories decades before? Right. Now understand, we tried cases up there where I had people that had cancer, they had liver, they had kidney cancer, they had testicular cancer, they had all types of stomach illnesses that were debilitating, were part of their intestines, had to be cut out. There were birth defects involved with this. But the reason, and let me just tell you something, we know for a fact that the national media, television media, was put on notice about this.
Right.
And the only people that really picked it up were the people that the newspapers or television right around where this was occurring. And at best, what we saw was national media do a 8-minute story, an 8-minute story on something this bad, where they bought into DuPont's argument. Understand, they didn't just do the story. They're thinking, okay, well, this is these people are advertisers for us, so let's put the best spin on it, and they made it sound like there wasn't a problem.
You see it all the time. It doesn't matter which industry it is, one after another, and without the litigation bar, without the trial lawyer bar, putting a spotlight on some of this stuff, you wouldn't see a lot of this coming to the forefront.
Well, you see
these stories are hidden behind confidentiality agreements, by sums of money and buy-offs, and forcing the plaintiffs to sign non-disclosure agreements. When you go into court, you see, I mean, how many cases have you been in where these disgusting emails are internal exchanges about corporate malfeasance, and they're discussing it internally. They know they're hurting people. They know they're pushing people to the end of the cliff, and then in order to get the emails in litigation, there's protective orders in place. I just wish if we got a little more spotlight, like the documentary, you'd see a lot less of this.
Now think about this. You have a judge making a ruling. Now, I think of asbestos, the early days of asbestos. There were documents where the CEOs of the company were making statements like, these men working around asbestos make a good living with asbestos. They can die with asbestos. Okay? Now think about the first judges.
It'd be nice to know that.
Yeah, you'd want to know that. But the first judges that handle these cases said, "Oh no, we can't let anybody hear this document." It took a decade to where that document was out in the public, and in between, people are working with asbestos, they're dying with asbestos. I've handled at least 5 cases where they've been pharmaceutical cases or environmental cases, where you've had documents where the defendant admits, A, we did wrong, B, by doing wrong, we've put people's health in jeopardy and people could die, And then we see some boneheaded judge say, oh, well, we got to put a protective order on this. We can't let this go out, let anybody know about it. What is your take?
It happens every day, and I do a lot more securities litigation. We literally got an email in today that after 4 years of litigation, we got an email in today that had previously been withheld, had not been produced. Oh, sorry, it was inadvertently not produced. And there is a complete discussion with senior level management in a multinational company admitting and discussing the problems that they caused internally with their clients, knowing they caused a problem, and then hid it from them.
Money.
And they hid it from them.
Yeah.
It's
when you talk about the problems, tell us what the problems are with a mom and pop investor.
It's corporate putting funds together and creating those funds with conflicts of interest, lining their own pockets, and then selling them to mom and pop investors that have worked their whole lives, kind of like your asbestos story. Here's somebody that's worked their whole life, butchers, fishermen, taxi cab drivers, socking money away, and big Wall Street company takes the money that they saved, sells them junk, crap, bottom of the barrel stuff.
They call it junk.
Yeah, well, they don't. They call it junk internally, but externally, it's preservation of capital. It's safe for, yes. Internally, they call it junk, and then they sell it to these people. They discuss it internally, and here's what the gist of the email was. It was absolutely disgusting. We've sold so much of this crap to our small client base that they can't sell it. There's no one to sell it to. It was restricted. If you're going to sell it, I have to sell it to you. You have to sell it to me. What happens if there's a push on the market? Well, shockingly, of course the price is going to tank. They discussed it internally, talked about pushing these mom and pops all the way to the cliff, and then they never told them there was a cliff there and let them fall off the edge.
And who went to jail for that?
And nobody saw the email. Nobody's seen it. I can't sit here and say what company it was. Nobody's gone to jail. Heck, no one's even seen the email. All because it's covered up by this non-disclosures, confidentiality that you're routinely forced to enter into. And if someone would just let these documents get out, put a name on who those are, people would think twice about walking their mom and pop clients up to the cliff.